Hello, we're here with Kyerra Jelks, who is our newest executive functioning coach on the team. We are so excited to learn more about you and the experience you've had so far working with NSEF clients. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here.
So, our very first question for people listening that are eager to know more about you and potentially work with you is to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
You've already introduced me. My name is Kyerra, and I am originally from Georgia. I have a BA in English with a minor in education from Spelman College. I have a master's of science in school counseling from Capella University. I've worked in education in many capacities, but the bulk of my experience is from working with students in alternative settings who have faced significant life challenges and are seeking a new path forward. And that's essentially how I discovered what my passion is, which is to help individuals overcome what they see as challenges in their personal lives.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what makes you such a unique coach is the breadth of your experience of working with many different type of people, right? Middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students, those seeking their path in any of those moments, kind of everywhere in between. What about executive function? Tell me a little bit more about what got you interested in executive functioning and how you even would define executive functioning.
I got interested in executive functioning really through my roles as a teacher and a counselor. Um, just from working with students on a regular basis, you get to see how those executive function challenges show up in their lives, whether they recognize them as executive function challenges or not. And given I take a holistic approach to education, I like to support students beyond academics. So I would find myself working with them on time management so they could stop getting to class late or stop turning in assignments late so they could, get the full credit for their work or working on organizing and planning things so that, that they have a better flow of how they work. And just seeing their growth over time and the positive impact that type of work had on their educational experience and their life overall, it kind of pushed me into doing more of this work, and I developed an interest for it that way.
Um, and for those that are listening, going, check, 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 missing assignments, that sounds like me or my kid, et cetera, et cetera. Things that are really, they may not even understand our executive functions. How would you, if somebody comes that's a total newbie and says, what is executive functioning? How would you describe it?
So I would describe executive functioning as the necessary cognitive skills to be able to self manage. So,
Mm.
for example, managing your time, being more organized, planning and prioritizing, starting tasks, finishing what you have started. I help for in my role, I help clients like strengthen those skills and work with them in developing systems, plans, habits, and essentially building the confidence to be able to self manage so they feel more in control of their lives and not like things are happening to them.
That self-management piece is so huge. We hear so often about students who are very capable, very smart, and they're just not doing the thing, right? Or they're doing it late, or they're doing it when under pressure, under stress, or under distress. Um, Tell us a little bit about how you would work with a client. So people are going, okay, self-management, yes, that is a real challenge for me or my loved one. Get us into the nitty-gritty of coaching. When you start working with a student, what are steps that you take to help them, and maybe even a favorite coaching exercise that you really kind of your go-to of working with a student?
Okay. So how I start out, oftentimes I start out with a check-in just to see how you're feeling today. Because oftentimes things that they dealt with before they come to this session tend to flow over into the session, and that affects how, we work together. And if I know ahead of time, maybe this isn't a good day for them, or, whatever things that they're feeling, and how they might play into the session, we can plan for that and we can pivot where necessary. So just getting a feel for where they are and how they're feeling ahead of session, and also giving them space to kind of separate from what they were doing and enter into session mode. Then after that, I kind of talk to them about their personal experiences and what they see as the challenges so that we can kind of narrow down exactly what executive function skill that is that they need support with. And that would be the one that they see most important because we've spoken about, what that experience is. And from there, we try to determine how they feel about change in this regard. Have they already tried things? Are they tired of hearing about people fussing about X, Y, and Z and they're motivated to make that shift, but they don't know how? Do they have no idea why they're struggling with this, why they see all of their peers excelling in this area? Just to get a feel for like what the motivation is and how deeply they understand what it is they're experiencing. And then from there, I just kind of work with them to co-create a plan that works just for them. Um, and it would address the challenges that they face, and it would be addressed in a way that feels authentic and supportive to this individual. A go-to strategy um, that I like to use is I call it the reset. So sometimes when clients enter a session, their head is cluttered, it's somewhere else. Um, or maybe they just can't focus or something around them is bothering them in their setting. Um, we set a 5-minute timer and we do this right in the session. We set a 5-minute timer. And in that 5 minutes, you're going to choose something to focus on that you can organize.
Mm.
Something, it doesn't have to be anything that's very much untidy. It could be just a quick fix.
Mhm.
So that might be the desk area in your room, or it might be your room itself. It might be your backpack. Um, but it gives them an opportunity to put their focus on something else, get busy, and then in 5 minutes we have a quick win. We feel a little bit better. We've organized and gotten rid of some of that mental clutter, and we're able to kind of flow into the session a little bit better that way.
I love it. I love it. And one of the coaches calls it the 5-minute rule. I don't know if you've heard this before. I mean, there's different names for different things, but if you can do it in less than 5 minutes, you do it now. And these little take home kind of, I don't know, they're not hacks. They're really, as you were describing, ways to unclutter, which, as I know you know, for organization, for time management, for task initiation, those are the parts that we start to see the motivation, we start to see the momentum. So often with clients that are feeling really stuck, I love that you addressed when they're walking into a session, what's up, right? Because we have to figure out what mental space they're in, how much capacity they have to give. And if the answer is very, very little, then we adjust accordingly. Have you worked with clients then that come into sessions, you had planned what you were going to do together, right? You had your commitment statement ready to go, and they walk in just completely dysregulated. And if so, tell us more.
I that that kind of happens often, and it's just a matter for me of scrapping the plan and pivoting to whatever the concern is in the moment. Because if we don't address it, it's going to occupy their mind, and the purpose of the session is null and void. So I feel like for me, it's always a pivot. It's always flexibility that supports in those type of situations.
Yeah. And when we talk about executive functioning profiles, we talk about EF skill strengths, we talk about EF skill vulnerabilities, weaknesses, deficits. Um, Tell us a little bit more about your strengths, maybe from an EF capacity or maybe just as a human being. What are some of the things that really make you shine?
I'll give two. An example of both.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, for in an EF capacity, I would say that my skills are definitely planning and organizing. In my regular day to day, I am just a natural planner. I can't do without planning. So as far like in my relationship, if we're going on vacation, don't worry about it. I planned it. I figured out the best price. I figured out the best airline. I figured out everything. Just participate. so, so that is a major strength of mine from an EF standpoint. And I guess from just a personal standpoint, groundedness is another one. Um, by nature, I'm very calm. And in my interactions, I always try to be present, intentional, and thoughtful, so that people feel heard, valued, and understood.
You know, it's so funny. I was just thinking to myself, can you plan my vacations for me? That was the first thing that I thought to myself. And I'm also thinking for parents that are listening, where they may be that role in their household. And it is extraordinarily frustrating that their kid isn't. So I guess the question I have for you, because you said I'm a natural planner, the EF coach in me has to ask, were you always that way? Do you remember from when you were a young kid that really being one of your strengths? Or was it something you developed through practice, that there was a moment where you were like, I need to be able to develop this skill in order to function? Do you remember?
I remember as a kid always being this way,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
Everything had a place. My sister and I shared a room at one point, and half of the room was tidy and half of the room was not. So I just always have been this way.
Yeah. It's just so interesting when we think about executive functioning profiles, right? These are skills. They're skills that we build and they're skills that we learn. And I wonder if perhaps with the dynamic with your sister, right? There's one half of it is dirty and one half of it is clean. And I think so often we see that in households. And when we talk about vulnerabilities or skill deficits, that we can build those, right? I hear so often, I'll never be a planner. I'll never be there on time. I'll never be organized. It's just not who I am. And it's like, no, 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 no. These are skills that we build. There are natural tendencies, of course, but then there are skills that we build. So I'm going to put you on the spot to talk about some of your skill vulnerabilities. Um, what are some things that with strengths come weaknesses we know? What are some areas of deficit or vulnerability that you're working on?
I guess to piggyback off of my strength, because I am a natural planner, I'm just when I have responsibilities or things on my plate, I don't mind planning them out to figure out the best way to get them done. But I can become overwhelmed that way.
Mm.
So I think delegation would be something that I'm working on. Um, yeah, that's definitely like a major thing that I'm working on for myself,
I
delegating.
get it. I hear you. I get it. And it's so interesting as we dig in about how strengths and vulnerabilities go together, right? Like, the person who plans a lot often struggles with the prioritization and the letting go of the plan, where it's like, I have
Yep,
a
just about.
plan, right? You're unique in that you pivot really beautifully. Like you'll create a whole plan and then willingly set it aside if it's not in the best interest of the person in front of you. It's a rare gift, and something that I think is, you must have picked up somewhere.
Education, education.
Will you
Like,
tell us a little bit more? Yeah.
yeah, when, for instance, when you lesson plan, that's the goal to get through the plan for the week. But there are certain points in the lesson where a student might raise their hand and ask a question that takes us way off course. And we spend X amount of time discussing this when we really should be in a different place according to the plan. But in order for them to get that full experience, the full knowledge, and share and connect with each other in a way that's meaningful and also supports the learning and the personal growth, um, we have to pivot. We have to let those things happen. So I had to adjust the plan and figure out, from that point, how am I going to get the rest of the lesson in and work around, the rest of my plan for the rest of the week because there are things that I still have to tackle. So being a teacher for sure helped me become more flexible versus being more rigid in my planning because really the students benefit from it when you're able to flow with them.
I mean, it really, speaking of flow, flows into the next question, which is about one-on-one, actually. I always have hats off to educators that are managing 20, 25, 30 people in a classroom at different stages of growth, different content awareness, right? Different executive functioning skills. One of the things we do at North Shore Executive Functioning is one-on-one, not just one of the things. It is the bedrock of what we do is one-on-one executive functioning coaching. Talk to us a little bit about your experience working one-on-one, maybe versus groups, benefits, pitfalls, differences that you see?
I really enjoy one-on-one work with students. Maybe because I'm a little introverted, but
Mhm.
also because I feel like it allows for a better connection. There is no one else there to take away from the attention that the client receives. So there's no way to hide behind someone else. For instance, versus in a classroom where if the student might have a question at this particular time, I can't take any more questions. I have to move on. So we get to address everything in real time when it comes up for the student, which is very helpful. Um, in that one-on-one type vibe, I like that we get to plan ahead for issues such as like focus, because I know oftentimes it's difficult for students to focus, just for X amount of time. Um, but in a one-to-one setting where they get to focus on themselves and the things that they think are important, and the things that they know they need support with, there's a little bit more buy-in, and that kind of helps with focus. But also, like, we're flexible. We're able to like take a little 2 or 3 second stretch break, or do a little breathing exercise if we feel a little bit overwhelmed. Um, and in those type of one-to-one settings versus like a larger group, if a student feels checked out, you kind of don't see them sometimes. It's easier to overlook them. So I like the one-to-one type support because we get to really focus on what we need in that moment. And the student gets all the attention that attention, not the attention for sure. Attention that they deserve, and it makes way for so much more growth, and so much more learning, and so much of them being able to see themselves in a way that they might not in a different type of setting. And I love that we can personalize our sessions, and be flexible and move through them as we see fit. We can have these type of points within each session that we want to make sure that we hit, but we can flow through it as we see fit. So I think one to one, honestly, is my favorite type of way to support a student because it allows for them to get exactly what they need.
You mentioned, I mean, obviously it was a Freudian slip of detention, but now I'm thinking about that because what makes me think of is students who are feeling really defeated, who come into executive functioning with just a lot of negative feedback. We know the statistics around those with ADHD receiving 3 to 4 times more negative feedback than their peers. And I'm thinking also of behavioral issues, right? Students who outright are, have the quote unquote like behavioral issues in the classroom, right? They're the ones throwing things or distracting others. And then there's some of the more internalized behavioral issues where students are daydreaming, checked out, non-responsive. Um, Really, that's what made me think of detention is I'm thinking of students almost like in a prison cell of their own executive functioning deficits, of not recognizing how this has nothing to do with smarts. This has really very little to do with motivation. Sometimes it's about, yeah, they're bored, they don't want to do this. Sure it is. Of course it is. They're not interested. Fine. But so often what we see is those behaviors are stemming from executive function.
Yeah.
So maybe you can give me an example or two of what you've seen in a student, right, of any of the above of what I just named, that was behaviorally parents or even other educators were going, this is a problem kid. This is a problem kid. And I know you love to work with the problem kids. So
Mhm.
I can even see you lighting up. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I have encountered several, as you can imagine, but one sticks out. Uh, Middle school kid, um, very hyperactive and could not control it. Honestly, could not control it. Of course, that meant that he got in lots of trouble often, very often. And I remember interviewing at the school, and as I was waiting, I remember meeting him first. Unofficially, he had got put out of class. And I just overheard him talking about how Miss such and such always kicks him out every day, da da da. And in that moment, I wanted to like pull him and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" But I was there to interview. I just kind of, but it turns out that I had to do a lot of work with his class, and I would see how he would interact with other students and the staff members and how they would receive him. Um, and I recognize as well that there's not a lot of ADHD support for students in schools. And knowing that I have this knowledge and I've done some of this work, I just kind of took him under my wing
Mm,
and just started working with him. I stopped, not stopped because I never did, but I didn't utilize the language that other staff members would use with him to address him when he was being hyperactive. Um, I will offer him different strategies and different skills to work at it. And I think for me, just taking a step back and not being a teacher, not being a counselor, not being a parent, just being a person that listens to what he's saying and observes the way he acts, giving him strategies and working with him based on what I felt would be beneficial and giving him the opportunity to say, I like this works, or no, can we try something else? And offering him the opportunity to rope other people in that he trusts to assist him with this as well, because he started to recognize, okay, there is something that I can do. Like, I'm not just, you know, being disruptive in class, as my teachers would say. Um, there are things that I can do to help myself instead of just getting in trouble because I don't enjoy getting in trouble. So it made way for good conversation, good connection, um, for him to get, better treatment from his peers, better treatment from his teachers, and the skills that he needs to just be able to be in his classroom and learn what he needs to learn because being put out of class often does not assist him. So
yeah.
I enjoyed working with that kid. He was a handful, and he was one of those types that sometimes just was bored and didn't care.
Yeah, sure.
But on the whole, he was a good student, just a little bit misunderstood, and being there to make him feel understood and heard was helpful. And
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I enjoy that kind of work.
I know you do. I know you do, and you're the trusted person for so many kids that are misunderstood. And I think that's one of the other areas where you really shine is the child that's working with you knows that you have their back. You are going to have their best interest. You're going to show up for them. That doesn't mean it's a free pass. We're still the accountability partners. You still got to do the work and put in the work. And at the end of the day, I think it's what's so special is how many other people in that environment have this kid's back and he knows it, right? I think it's just extraordinary. I can see many parents saying, I wish my kid had that person. And I know you are that person in the one-on-one setting, and I'm grateful that in schools you are that person too. So I think the very last question I would have for you is really less of a question and more of an opportunity for you to address anyone who would like to work with you, to have the final word. Anything you'd like to say directly to anyone listening?
Well, I would say to potential clients that working with me would be an experience that fits you. It's not a one size fit all with me. We're gonna go through some things and try some stuff out, see what's the right fit, and see what feels comfortable to you. Because oftentimes when certain executive challenges show up, people already have these ideas of what to suggest, and oftentimes those things don't work for everybody. And then when you go to use them, you become discouraged because it's not working. But I like to work in a way that allows people to get a feel for what does work. Like, we don't have to, if planners is not it, it's not it. We don't
Right.
even have to approach it again if you've already tried it,
Right.
unless you want to. Like, it's gonna be an experience that is supportive of who you are as a unique individual. And we're gonna move at your pace. We're gonna do what feels comfortable. We're gonna do it in a manner that you see it's not my voice that's going to be heard most, it's going to be yours. And I'm ready, willing, and excited to listen, to empathize, to show up for you in whatever way I can, because that's just how I view education and just connecting with people in general. I love to support people when they feel like, hope is lost or I'm stuck and I can't move forward. Or I don't know what to do. Like I love breaking down things with people to help them move forward and past those things so that they can have a better quality of life, better quality of work, better quality of education, and just better quality of everything in general, I guess.
Yeah.
I look forward to meeting you all. Um I'm here, I'm ready, and I'm ready to go.
Fantastic. Kyerra, educator, counselor, executive functioning coach, ADHD
Many hats, many
certified.
hats.
Um, I just thank you so much for carving out the time to talk together, and we appreciate you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, thank you, I appreciate it, and I'm excited to be here again.
Okay, bye bye.
Alright, talk to you later.